Last class we talked all about the grain group, and today we'll be talking about yet another group that belongs on my plate. If you remember, over the past couple months we've talked about fruits and vegetables and the importance of making half of your plate fruits and vegetables. We also spent last class talking about the grain group and the importance of whole grains in your body. Today we will be talking about the protein group, and we're going to start our class talking about eggs. If you remember, eggs belong in the protein group along with a lot of different foods. I have a little tray here with me today with foods that belong in the protein group. You'll notice there's foods that belong from animal sources like chicken and turkey. We also have foods that are plant-based sources like nuts and seeds and beans. Each of these gives our body amino acids, which are building blocks for protein. But first, let's start talking about eggs and the important part that they play for our body in giving us protein. Now, eggs come from chickens, which is an animal source, right? There are people that choose to eat a vegetarian diet, and that means that they choose not to get their protein from animal sources. They do, however, eat eggs and milk and cheese, things that come from animals. There's also a vegan diet, which means that those people decide not to eat protein foods that come from animal sources, as well as things that come from those animals. So they don't eat eggs or dairy or cheese or different types of foods that come from animals either. But they also have a great opportunity to get protein foods from other sources, like our plant sources we'll talk later about today. Today for our experiment, we're going to be making a bouncy egg. All you're going to need for this experiment is some vinegar and a hard-boiled egg. So I hard-boiled this egg and it's been resting, so it's not hot anymore. I'm going to take a clear glass and fill it with vinegar. I'm also going to add some blue food coloring, which you don't need to do. This will just help us to see the chemical reaction a little bit better. Now, hopefully you're already familiar with an eggshell and the importance it does in protecting the egg from breaking, right? Well, what our egg is made from, the eggshell is made from calcium. So the calcium is what calcifies and makes that eggshell hard so that it can protect it. And if you remember, our teeth and our bones have calcium, which also has that same calcification that hardens and protects. Now, when I put this egg into our vinegar mixture, we're going immediately to see bubbles that form. Now, what that's going to be is carbon dioxide from the vinegar having a chemical reaction with the calcium. And that vinegar is so acidic that it's going to eat that calcium. I just place that egg right into my vinegar, and you'll quickly see that bubbles are beginning to form on the eggshell. Now, it's kind of hard to see in the video screen, but I have an egg that's been sitting in vinegar for 48 hours. So we'll be able to see a stronger reaction, but hopefully you're able to see in the camera that there's bubbles already forming. And again, that is a chemical reaction. The carbon dioxide is forming from the vinegar eating away at the calcium and causing the calcium to disintegrate and come off of that egg. Pretty cool, right? Now I have this egg, like I said, it's been sitting for 48 hours, and you can see a lot more bubbles that have formed, and a lot of that eggshell is disintegrating and coming off this egg. So I am going to remove our egg from this vinegar mixture. And it's lucky I'm not doing this in the classroom because it is going to stink. All right. Okay, so here's my egg that was just sitting in that vinegar, and you'll notice it is bouncy and squishy. Now, what has happened is all of the calcium from our eggshell, which is what was making it strong, has liquefied, and you can see a little bit of the eggshell that's still remaining. It just sweeps right off. You can see the remnants of that eggshell. So gross. And now that egg is bouncy. It is just squishy because all the calcium has leached out of the eggshell. Pretty crazy, right? This is an easy experiment you can do at home to see the importance of calcium and how it protects us in our teeth and our bones. And if you remember, calcium comes in the dairy group, which we'll talk about next time. But pretty cool to see it in live form, how that calcium disintegrates and that egg is left squishy. The protein group is an essential group for your body. Protein foods are made up of amino acids. Amino acids help to build all the proteins that supply your body with the proper growth and repair. I like this analogy I like to think of when I think of amino acids. If you think of the alphabet, it's made of 26 letters, right? But it can make millions of different words. The same can be said with amino acids. There's 20 essential amino acids, and that means your body does not make them and needs to get them from plant and animal sources. These amino acids then can form over 2 million different types of proteins that your body needs to grow and repair and function properly. These proteins make up your hair, your nails, your skin, and your muscles, all important things for your body to move. If you grab your skin and watch it bounce back into place, that's collagen that causes that reaction. And collagen is yet again made up of protein, which is a great example as to why your body needs protein to function properly. Now, just like many of the other groups, there's healthier options that belong in the group versus less healthy options. The protein group also contains fat. And I know there's a big stigma about fat being bad for your body, and too much of it is bad for your body. But your body does need fat for insulation and protection. Fat is an important thing for our body to be safe and healthy, and getting enough of it is an important way to stay healthy and strong. Now, I have a tray here with lots of different protein foods. Some of these protein foods are healthier than others. One of these less healthy protein options would be bacon. And I'm sure we all wish that bacon was a healthy food in the protein food group because it tastes so delicious. And of course, bacon is okay to eat once in a while in moderation, but eating it too often can cause too much fat for your body. There's different types of fat that is contained in these protein groups. There is saturated fat and unsaturated fat. We also see trans fat on our food labels, and trans fat is a fat that's man-made, so it doesn't come naturally in food, and it's really bad for your body. Trans fat should never be eaten, and you can find on your food label if the food that contains trans fat will say in the ingredient list or on the food label. These types of foods that contain trans fats would be foods that are very processed, so not natural healthy foods. So let's talk for a minute about saturated and unsaturated fats and how we can locate them in these foods. Some foods may be easy to tell. If I was to ask you if bacon or turkey was healthier, probably pretty easy to know that turkey's healthier, just because our culture is familiar with bacon, unfortunately not being our healthiest protein food. Hot dogs is another example of a less healthy food. But what if I was to ask you about chicken versus hamburger? Maybe some of you can answer this question easily. Maybe some of you, it might be a little confusing. What about peanut butter? Is this a healthy or less healthy option? I have a trick for you to learn. So our plant-based sources have our healthier options. They don't have any unless a little bit of saturated fat. They mostly contain our unsaturated fat, which is our healthiest type of fat. An easy way to locate whether a fat is healthy or less healthy is by what it looks like at room temperature. I have some vegetable oil here with me. It's very clearly liquid at room temperature, right? What about a stick of butter? A stick of butter is obviously hard. I'm able to hold it. It's holding its shape at room temperature. Butter is primarily saturated fat, while olive oil and vegetable canola oil, they are unsaturated fat, which shows you're able to see that they're liquid at room temperature, which means that it's healthier, easier for your body to digest, process, it doesn't clog arteries. If you were to imagine I had a straw with me and I dumped in some oil and I dumped in some butter, which one would slide through easier? Obviously the oil, right? Now when we're getting fat for our body, this is our healthiest way we can get our fat composition to have what we need to function and have the protection we need for our body. Now, a way we can tell if our animal sources are healthy or not is by the animal they come from. And surely you're familiar with different types of meat and what animals they come from. So we are going to talk about the importance of lean meats. The USDA has come out and said that the protein group, we should try to consume lean protein. Lean protein means that the food has less of the saturated fat and more of our lean, healthier fat. This lean, healthier fat comes from animals that are more active. So a good way to tell if a protein meat is lean or not is by thinking about the animal and how active it is. Let's do an example. Here's our first animal. All right, our first animal, a cow. Is this a big or a small animal? Big, right? And how active is this animal? If you have cows or know someone who does, you know that cows are pretty inactive. They basically stand around, walk, and eat. Very inactive. How about this animal? Easy, right? A pig. Obviously, a pig is big and very inactive as well. Now, this is a good pattern we can see for foods that are less healthy for your body. So food that comes from animals that are not active, like cows and pigs, are less healthy for our body. They contain more saturated fat. They're less healthy for our body. Let's check out this next animal. Okay, a chicken, big or small? Obviously small, right? And those of you that are familiar with chicken activity, you know that they are very active and they move a lot. So chickens are a great example of a lean protein. We see the same thing with turkeys and other animals that are smaller and very active. Their body composition is a lot less fat, which means they contain more unsaturated and less saturated fat, making them our lean and healthy protein options. This also can be said with fish. They exercise constantly, right? By swimming, so they contain a lot of our healthy types of fats, which are better for our body. Now our goal is to try to eat less of our saturated unhealthy fats and more of our healthy fats. Now the cut of meat also can determine whether it's healthier or not. So think about a pig, for instance. The bacon part of the pig comes from the underbelly, right? That's why it's so greasy and so fatty and makes it our very least healthy option. But if you were able to get meat from maybe the pig's shoulder or a cow's shoulder, that part of the meat is more active, it moves more, right? So it's going to contain more of our healthier fats. So if you are eating cow or pig meat, getting parts of the body that move more often will contain more of the unsaturated healthy fat, which will be better for your heart and your arteries, and all of your body will get more of the healthy protein and less of the added on unhealthy fat. Now let's talk for a sec how much fat we should be eating. We know that the protein group is at the corner of my plate and should only be taking about that much of our plate. So too much protein food is also not good for you, just like the other food groups. Eating, let's say, a big steak that takes up the whole plate, tastes delicious, maybe okay once in a while, but that much protein is way more than our 5 ounces a day. And 5 ounces a day is the perfect amount to give our body the amino acids it needs to be healthy and strong and build those protein foods to go all throughout our body and form and repair and function properly. Eating the right amount of protein food is so essential. What happens if you eat too much protein food? If you eat too much protein food, your body has too much nitrogen, and guess how that nitrogen is removed? Through your urine. If you do not have enough protein food, then your body will pull it from your muscles, which is also an unhealthy thing. So getting the right amount of amino acids from our protein groups is so important. Let's practice making a healthy recipe to get those protein foods in your body so it can be digested and sent throughout your body to be healthy and strong. Today for our protein recipe, we're going to be making one of my all-time favorite protein recipes. It also incorporates some whole grains, so it's a win-win recipe. This recipe is called Oatmeal Energy Bites, and maybe you've tried these before. They're super easy. They only require a few ingredients. You can eat them for breakfast on the go, for snacks with your lunch, or even for a dessert because they are very sweet. Let's get started. The first recipe, or the first ingredient for our recipe, is going to be 1 cup of oats. These are really inexpensive and belong in the grain group. They are whole grains, which means they have not been processed to have any part of the grain removed. We also will add in a half a cup of peanut butter. Now this is where our protein comes from. We'll add that peanut butter right into our oats. And next we're going to add some honey. Now this creates a little bit of stickiness so that the recipe will stay together. We're going to do 1/4 of a cup of honey. We'll just mix this together. And this will add a little bit of sweetness as well. Is this recipe looking familiar? Maybe you've tried this before. We're also going to add, this is probably an unfamiliar ingredient for some of you. It's called flaxseed. But this flaxseed also belongs in the protein group. It has a lot of protein. It comes from flax and gives you protein from the seed. It's been ground, so that means it's like a flour, a powder. And we're going to add 1/3 of a cup of this. Now, if you don't have flaxseed at your house or you can't find it in the store, you can use more oats here. You could also try crushed up cereal. You can experiment with lots of different ways. This just adds a little more texture and more protein to our recipe. So I'm going to use my spatula to mix these ingredients together. And then we're going to add one more ingredient, which I'm sure you'll be thrilled about. We're going to add some chocolate chips. Now, typically we don't want to add a lot of added sugar to our recipes, but I'm going to add about 1/3 of a cup of mini semi-sweet chocolate chips. And you, of course, can experiment and do different things. Another tasty add-in you can add to our recipe is some dried fruit like raisins or cranberries are another great way to make this recipe, maybe a My Plate energy ball, where you incorporate some dried fruit as well. So I'm going to add 1/3 of a cup of these mini chocolate chips. They're like mini size. You could also use full size ones. You could do milk chocolate chips, white chocolate chips, a mix of different kinds. I've also seen peanut butter flavored chips before, and those would be delicious in here as well. So I'm just gonna mix this together, and it's that simple. We're already finished. I'll show you how delicious it looks. So we just have our oats mixed with our peanut butter, honey, flaxseed, and some chocolate chips added in there. And then you just take out some of that dough and roll it into a ball and put it in the fridge. You don't even have to cook it. So simple and easy, right? And you totally can eat it right now, right as you're making it. Putting it in the fridge just helps it to harden up so it holds its shape a little better. You don't have to store them in the fridge, but they do, like I said, hold their shape a little better, and they're not quite as squishy when they've been sitting in the fridge for a little while. And that's it. So simple and easy. I'll make sure to send this recipe home with you so you can take it home and hopefully create it with your family and enjoy this recipe for snack time or a quick breakfast if you're running late in the morning. Today for your outdoor activity, we'll be having an exercise competition. The PE teacher has a list of different exercises, and she will break you into 4 to 6 groups. Once you're broken into these groups, you will form a circle, and the PE teacher will call out some type of exercise, like jumping jacks, crunches, high knees, or burpees. You will participate with your group to do this exercise as many times as you can. Once you're tired and you tap out, you sit down. The last person remaining in the group doing the exercise will move on to the next round. Then each winner from each group will come together and compete to see who can do it the longest out of those groups, and you will continue until there is one person remaining. We will then move back to our groups or resituate groups and continue this with a different type of exercise. Remember, exercise and protein food is a great way that you can build muscle and stay strong and healthy. Focus on eating those healthy protein foods this month, and the PE teacher will give you a recipe so you can make our delicious protein recipe at home with your family. See you next time. Goodbye.